Evening, everyone. Feel free to come in, those at the back who are still making their way in. You're very welcome. It's lovely to see you all here tonight in this lovely, cosy, warm room, and aren't we all lucky that most of us here tonight will go home to a cosy, warm room and a cosy, warm bed. But of course, that isn't the case for a large number of Victorians. In Melbourne, in particular in the CBD alone, the last street count found that there are 250 people sleeping rough on any given night here in the heart of our city. That's just in the CBD. That was an increase of 74% on the last street count. So the numbers of people in our community, the number of members of our society who don't have a home to go to is on the increase. And of course that headline number just is a very small part of the spectrum. The thousands of people, the 35,000 of people who are waiting for public housing in this state, and the thousands who are couch surfing, sleeping in cars, don't know where they're going to put their head from one night to the next. So homelessness and insecure housing is a very big and it's a very growing issue for Victoria and for Melbourne. And along with it being a growing issue, we seem to be seeing a growing intolerance of people who are homeless or who are having trouble finding housing. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight, is how we are addressing this issue of homelessness and insecure housing as the government, Melbourne City Council, and as a society. You will all be aware, if you're interested in this issue, I'm sure, that Melbourne City Council is currently debating a proposal to effectively outlaw homelessness in the CBD. It's going to make it very difficult for people to sleep rough in the centre of the city. There was a lot of outcry about that, and some of the people on the panel here tonight were instrumental in working towards trying to change that. We are awaiting the outcome of that particular decision. Jenny, you might like to explain in more detail what the current proposal is from Melbourne City Council in terms of the approach to homelessness in the CBD.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth remembering that the situation we're facing in Melbourne came off the back of some poor media coverage of homelessness in our city, where one of our media outlets and associated media, really took to demonising vulnerable people on our streets, and I think whipping up ill feeling among the population more generally.
Did you see a change, did you?
Absolutely.
You did? Okay.
Absolutely, and it's been unconscionable behaviour, and we've seen it we've seen two waves of it, and I think we might expect to see another one. And in that context, people sleeping rough in the city were offended, and supporters of those people were outraged, and that led to protests and in support, and to an overheating of what should have just been a difficult situation for people. So in that circumstance, a range of things that mightn't have happened, and one of them was the City of Melbourne saying it would consider increasing regulation that might affect people's capacity to camp on the streets. So I think it's important to understand that circumstance and the pressure that a range of public officials were under in that context. The City of Melbourne has always taken a leadership role nationally in relation to how best to get the balance right between a humane response and public safety. We all want to be able to walk down our streets, and I think, all want to be as humane as possible to people experiencing homelessness. My understanding is that the jury is still out in terms of what the council wants to do, and that it's not going to be responding until July. And I have some hope that we might see a response that focuses more on providing guidance around the amount of belongings that people can have with them camped on the streets, and perhaps less of an emphasis on making a difficult situation even more difficult for people